If the goal of this movie was to get me to like Timothée Chalamet, then mission accomplished. I love that guy. But if the goal of this movie was to make me like Bob Dylan, then he comes off as a pretentious asshole. Welcome to my first ever booze mini reviews, where I, Aunt Boo, drink this mini bottle of booze, and I'm going to review A Complete Unknown, starring Timothée Chalamet. It's on Hulu right now, and you can go watch it if you have Hulu. Oh, Jesus God. Now, if you were expecting a biopic of Bob Dylan, don't worry, that's not what this is. This is 2.5 hours of Timothée Chalamet doing a really good Bob Dylan impersonation, singing full-ass songs, and people are staring at him the whole time. Because Bob Dylan is a white man in the 60s, he hitches a ride across the United States, completely unharmed, to New York City, where in the middle of the night, he walks into a poorly guarded hospital. He plays a song for Woody Guthrie that he wrote about Woody Guthrie. Pete Seeger just happens to be there and is in complete awe of this skinny little kid. So Pete Seeger's like, come on home to my house. I'll give you some food. I'll give you a place to sleep. I'll introduce you to my hot wife and my kid. And because he's such a great songwriter, Pete Seeger is like, here, I'll give you all these platforms to perform on, and I'm going to promote the shit out of you. So then Bob Dylan meets Joan Baez, and he fucks her over real good. And some other stuff happened. Basically, 90% of the movie are shots like this. These overly extended shots of the people in his life that he's going to screw over, having strong emotional reactions to his music. Then comes his big stick it to the man moment, which you would think is like Woodstock, but no, he wasn't even at Woodstock. We'll come back to that later. He's ready to transition from folk music to folk with an electric guitar, because he's an artist and he won't be stymied. He won't be boxed in, except he already made a deal to be the headliner at this folk festival that got him famous in the first place. That is put together by, remember Pete Seeger, the guy who basically handed him a career on a plate? Not that he wouldn't have been famous because he's such a good writer and he's a great artist, but he's not the best singer. And in fact, I would argue that Timothée Chalamet does a better Bob Dylan than Bob Dylan. Yeah, come at me, boomer. Come at me, AARP. By the time this Newport Folk Music Festival comes around, Bob Dylan has found his new sound, which sounds exactly like his old sound, again, just with the backing band. And he refuses to go up on stage and play an acoustic guitar. White people problems. Bob Dylan has now reached a level of fame that he resents, thereby making him inaccessible and unrelatable, and also making him unlikable to the people who put him there in the first place. And he makes Pete Seeger like the Mr. Rogers of folk music. He makes this man go so crazy that he sees all of these axes and is starting to walk towards one so he can go out Lizzie Borden on the soundboard. But then his hot wife steps in and is like, hey, Pete, think about the children. So then Bob Dylan is done and he's made his point and he just off. And then so one of the biggest concerts of his generation and a huge act of protest by the young people, he didn't even go to because he just kind of didn't wanna. But he did show up for We Are the World to give the most out of place solo in history.